It must run in the John Thompson family to just flaunt the law. Must be a family deal.
Like father, like child?
Like daughter, yeah. I'm sure many of you are aware that the St. Paul... I called Chief Axtell. He's out of town at an FBI leadership conference. Otherwise, he said he would have been thrilled to join us, but he can't break away from the meetings he's in. St. Paul police say Thompson bullied and intimidated the officers as they tried to investigate his adult daughter during a DUI traffic stop. She's 26 years old. She didn't have a license, and she apparently was under the influence of drugs, but her father arrived on the scene, and officers allowed him to take her away rather than placing her under arrest. She was vile. He's vile. She refused to roll down her window and identify herself to police, according to a report obtained by Alpha News, but it's now breaking on all news sites. Both papers had it this morning in the television stations. However, officers learned who she was when Representative Thompson arrived on the scene, stating that the driver was his daughter and she is afraid of police. The source recalled Thompson's chaotic arrival on the scene. Thompson drives up to the scene, parks illegally, and started yelling at officers right away. And he also reportedly handed out his card to officers.
Well, that was nice of him.
See, he's too stupid to know that he's on the third rail. But he's not so stupid as to not take advantage of this position.
Correct.
Or at least think he is.
Careful.
Our officers were bullied by a state representative who tried to use his elected position and false claims of racism to intimidate. St. Paul Police spokesperson Steve Linder said Thompson's behavior put our officers who were trying to keep our streets safe for everyone in an incredibly difficult position. No one should ever be bullied by an elected official. No one should have to endure being called a racist without provocation or proof. Eventually, the daughter rolled the window down enough to identify herself to officers and was found not to have a valid driver's license. An officer on the scene could smell the odor of marijuana coming from the vehicle and believed she was operating the vehicle while under the influence because she was pulled over because it was weaving. At that time, the police would attempt to talk to the daughter into cooperating with the investigation, but if she refused, she would be charged out of custody for test refusal, per the report. The report goes on to explain that she did not want to cooperate with officers, but wanted to leave with her father, and that her wishes were honored. Police have requested charges for DWI test refusal and obstructing the legal process. Thompson has been reached out to by many outlets, and he will not respond.
Do you have Chief Axtell's response?
I don't have the Pioneer Press in front of me.
I have it in front of me, Kenny, if you don't.
It's the one he
This is from Fox 9. Is that the one you're referring to?
I have something he released on, I believe, Facebook yesterday.
Oh, yeah, yes.
It's a page long. Do you have that, Chris?
I don't have the entire thing, but I know that this story took snippets from that.
Yesterday, one of our officers made a traffic stop while working a state-funded Toward Zero Death detail focused on taking impaired drivers off our streets. It turned ugly fast. While the officer was attempting to get the driver, whose license was suspended and who was driving with tabs that had been expired for 2 years, to cooperate, and other officers backed her up, the driver's father pulled up in another vehicle, jumped out, and immediately began interfering by yelling and questioning the traffic stop and identifying him as State Representative John Thompson. Here we go again. It's an absolute shame that an elected official would attempt to intimidate and bully police officers, that he would misuse his official position, and that officers doing their job should have to endure illegitimate claims of racism, that John Thompson is still serving in the legislature. It's a slap in the face to those of us, including our police officers, who are working in good faith to make our city safer for everyone. How many times do our officers have to be berated? How many times do lies have to come to light? Accountability matters. I want to be clear about this. My officers were put in an incredibly difficult position and made the best decision they could at the time to de-escalate and avoid being unfairly vilified again. It was an outrageous scene. I wish state law allowed us to release the body-worn camera footage, but we can't at this time. However, Representative Thompson or his daughter can, and I encourage them to do so. Then maybe I said that wrong. Maybe then something will change. And that's the end of the statement.
And that's written by Chief Axtell.
Yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Play.
I've been waiting to do this.
We have
For over an
audio.
hour.
We have audio of yesterday's House session. When apparently, are they all working remotely?
Some, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe some were in person and others chose to vote remotely.
And they're voting on something that Thompson didn't understand, broadband or something, and they asked for the roll call votes, and you couldn't have created this if you tried. But listen to what you hear when Thompson's name is called for his vote.
Morrison.
Morrison, aye.
Morrison, aye. Mortensen.
Mortensen, no.
Mortensen, no. Sandell.
Sandell, aye.
Sandell, aye. Thompson.
Thompson, aye.
Thompson, aye. Mecklin.
You couldn't make that up.
Mecklin.
Wherever the moron is, you can hear a siren in the background.
Probably another racist cop.
Yeah. There's so many.
This clown needs to go. Can I play it again?
What are the steps again it takes to remove him? I know we were through this a
Well, the
year or two ago.
DFL has booted him from their caucus, so he calls himself an independent. Look up, more importantly, who's running against him. I think that's already been established. I believe it might be a Hmong woman.
By the way, we have a trusted mole that fed us the following. I've heard from numerous hashtag Minnesota leg sources today to watch for a renewed push for Representative John Thompson to be formally expelled from the Minnesota legislature. Thompson is currently running for re-election to the Minnesota leg.
We need to know who he's running against.
I got it.
I think her name is
here.
Lee.
Liz Lee.
Liz Lee. I don't know if she's. I don't know her ethnicity, and I presume she's a liberal Democrat.
Actually, there's another one too. Hoang Murphy, founder of the nonprofit Foster Advocates, and Liz Lee, a nonprofit consultant and former Washington, D.C. staffer, are both in the race.
Okay.
I'll see what I can find about them.
Well, I'm sure they're progressives, but despite that, they would be a welcome. That would be a welcome defeat of this idiot.
Your theory would not apply to this particular candidate, meaning we're going to regret the person that replaces Thompson.
No.
Okay, good.
No. That can only be an improvement. He's not a good human being. And he's virtually a criminal, isn't he?
Yeah. Can I play it again?
Yeah, go play
Can
it
I please
again.
play it again?
Can you? I'm surprised the chamber, whoever was there, didn't burst out laughing.
But here's what, don't talk over it this time,
Yeah.
but when you hear the siren,
Yeah.
you hear somebody go, did you just hear that? It's kind of faint, but you can hear someone saying that in the background.
Morrison.
Morrison, aye.
Morrison, aye. Mortensen.
Mortensen, no.
Mortensen, no. Sandell.
Sandell, aye.
Sandell, aye. Thompson.
Thompson, aye.
Thompson, aye. Mecklin.
It's like a bad sitcom.
oh, it's just amazing.
I did find some info on Lee. She says her legislative priorities are rent stabilization, good paying jobs, infrastructure, and health equity. She has spent several years in Washington, D.C., working for Senator Amy Klobuchar and Representatives Barbara Lee, and when he was a representative, Keith Ellison.
Well, she's obviously not my political cup of tea, but
At
again,
least she might be
she
sane.
might be a functioning human being,
Right. Which is a step
which
up.
would be a step up.